Hi guys, Four-Eyed Piper here again. I'm doing another VR, and this is my last for the evening. I saved it for last because, quite frankly, I was a little bit, maybe a little bit self-conscious on this one. This is a VR to a presenter that I respect a great deal. Somebody who I've not had too much interaction with yet. Hoping to have more interaction with in the future. Someone who is widely respected in the YTPC. And quite frankly, wanted to do a VR that represented me well. But I'm a little goofy and a little bit off the wall sometimes and a little rough around the edges. And sometimes when I'm presenting myself to somebody new, first impression and all that, I can be a little shy because I want to make sure I'm taken the right way, and I want that person to, especially if I want to establish some sort of connection relationship with them, I want them to want to come back. So that being said, this VR is for Simon, London calling, and his 3,000 subscriber giveaway. Of course, I say all of that, Simon, and I have to remind myself that we all started somewhere, right? I love your channel. I hope that you're proud of the success of your channel. I think that you are, and it's hard to tell because you're a very humble person. And when you speak, you speak with sincerity and a genuine love for what you do, the love for the pipe hobby. I've learned a lot from watching your channel, and although you may not put yourself in the same category as a mutton chop or matches or those other presenters that are often considered the first place you go to learn about the pipe hobby, I would put you there. For me, you were one of the first channels that I subscribed to, and just following your channel throughout the course of the last year, I've learned such a huge amount about piping and the hobby, and about maybe a different perspective than I have, especially about pipes. So I want to thank you for that, and I just want to pay you the respect of telling you that you are definitely in that category for me. But again, I have to remind myself that we were all 100, 200, 300 sub presenters at one time or another. Me much more recently than you, obviously, and maybe I'll get there down the road. I doubt it, but we'll see. So, Simon, you asked for us to produce a VR that answers to a time that we were reflective and maybe took a different approach or changed our MO in regards to a situation. And I thought about this quite a bit. And there's plenty of different times, hopefully, that everybody can talk about where they, looked within and came up with a different approach and changed in some way. Because I think that we all have to do that regularly. I spend a lot of time reflecting. That's why this hobby really jives with my style. Gives me time to pause and think. Now, the example I'm going to give you was before I got into the pipe hobby, but I've always been a very reflective person, very introspective, and usually a pretty shy person. This YTPC business has brought it out of me a little bit and given me an outlet to maybe be a little more outspoken. But this particular instance has to do with my job, and you know, I'm 32. I've worked for this company for 10 years. I'm not going to tell you what the company is, but I've worked as a member of management, excuse me, for 8 of the 10 years, and definitely, you know, in my early mid 20s, did not have the skill set that I have now, and it's taken me a lot of mistakes to establish who I am as a manager and who I am as a leader. And I think there's a distinction there that we don't always call out between manager and a leader. I think anyone can be a leader. I think a manager, you know, being a manager brings with it certain facets of business that are not always conducive to being a leader necessarily. We can get into a discussion about this, but the biggest thing is that our kind of stereotypical thought of what a manager is somebody who can tell somebody what to do. And in my opinion, a leader is someone who can inspire people to want to do the things that you need them to do. So, you know, early on, maybe 5 or 6 years ago, when I was still learning, and I'm learning every day, I still, I'm developing my style, but at this time, you know, I was fairly new. I had a manager who worked under me who just was not doing the right things, was not committed to the business, was not committed to what he needed to accomplish, was not taking care of his people, and I needed to address that. So my first instinct was to haul him into my office and reprimand him and go down the line of progressive discipline and all of that good stuff. All of the by the book ways that we deal with somebody who's not performing. And those were all valid. Those were all acceptable methods. But very soon I realized that I was just not getting the results that I wanted. He continued to be disengaged. He continued to make mistakes, and he continued to irk me. let's just put it that way. And at that time, very luckily, I was involved in a leadership group, training group, in a class that I was taking that was actually inspired by Dale Carnegie. And for those of you who don't know who Dale Carnegie was, he was a writer, early 1900s, and very prolific writer who spent a lot of his time developing material and teaching people how to be effective leaders, and how to influence people, and how to bring people along to your way of thinking. And so that course that I was taking actually was perfectly timed, because I learned a lot about creating in others an eager want to do what's right, and those are words from Dale Carnegie. And that's a lot to do with just taking a personal interest in people and getting to know them and getting to understand their motives and why they are the way that they are and why they show up to work every day and why they do the things that they do. It can be a bit psychological. It can be very contrary to the ways that we typically would handle a situation like that. And so it took me some time and a lot of reflection to maybe back down off of, the course that I was at with this person. And I spent a lot of time just developing my relationship with this person. And eventually, I was able to find out that this gentleman was going through a divorce, and he was really not engaged at work because he was so maxed out from the things that were going on in his own life that I knew nothing about, that he didn't have room to be an effective manager at work. And so we spent a lot of time together, and we were able to talk a lot, and I was able to listen and give him an outlet to discuss things that maybe he normally wouldn't have discussed with me, and kind of broke through a little bit with this person, and eventually, after a long period of time, we were able to get on the same page, and he was able to understand what I was looking for, and I was able to give him maybe some slack that he needed, and but also holding him accountable, and we were able to figure it out and come to an agreement about what needed to happen, and he was able to relax a little bit. And it was said in somebody's video recently that we only really perform well when we are relaxed, and I agree with that. So that was a little long-winded and a little bit I don't know, vague, because I have to be intentionally vague, but that was a time that I think had a great impact on me and helped me to establish what kind of manager I wanted to be moving forward. And I find myself using a lot of those skills at home and with my kids. I think those soft skills, as we call them sometimes, are so important. And often young managers don't have them yet. So we have to work on those things. And we have to identify that our younger generation maybe doesn't have the interpersonal savvy that once was present. So we have to continue to be mindful of that. So yeah, that's my response to you, Simon. I hope you enjoyed it. I hope it answered your question. I hope it wasn't too long-winded and boring for you. I hope I have more interaction with you, Simon. I really respect you. I love your channel. I learn a lot from you. If you have a little bit of time, I hope you check out my channel too at some point and give me some feedback. I'd love to know what you think. So thanks, guys. That's it for me. Until next time, I'll see you later.